Hey, morning, folks. We're going to continue work here on the Reclaimant. I'm sick, so I'm not going to last very long. But let me get through my signal here, and we'll push some pixels for a little bit, and then I'll be back on Monday. So hold on real quick. Let me see. Let me see how we're looking here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. See how we're looking here. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Excellent. Today we're working on the book cover that was commissioned by Joseph Vargas, who's creating a new role-playing game called Reclaimant. Vaguely, it's about nature rising up against man during the Industrial Revolution to, stop it. so, let me see here. I'm a little scatterbrained today, so forgive that. Okay, quick intro spiel and then we'll get to work. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements and I create artwork for games that are published online. My own work is DMsGuild, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition that I publish on the DMsGuild. There's links to the work that I've done down below. There's probably about 150 some odd illustrations between those works. So you'll get a good idea of the kind of artwork that we're producing here today for Joseph. Like and subscribe to the channel. I have a Patreon that you can support through. Otherwise, let's I guess just get into this. So, right. So here's the book cover. Here's the trade dress here, or the logo and byline. Reclaimant art here. I'm back filling all of the twigs and branches to Yggdrasil here to finish that up, and if we're lucky, I'm going to get rid of what should happen is all of this work should wash out in a radiant purple glow once we're completed with it. So it'll act as like a block of light purplishness that will frame around the title and the subtitle. Hey, Ukulele, it's good to see you, man. I'm not sure how much talking I'm going to do. I'm a little wrecked out right now, but I wanted to commit to making sure that I'm getting stuff done on this project. So it's done here before August. So rough frame. Oh, that's what I'm looking for. Frame. Right. So we're just going to. I'm pretty out of it. So we're just. What I did was I created this patchwork here as a background ambience. And the way that I've been resolving all the twig work is by, like, for example, erasing a line there and then drawing up into it, and erasing a line there and then drawing up into it. So we can create this sort of endless matrix of entwined branches and brambles that allow us to sort of play with how much lighting, or like how much of each branch is visible at any given time. So I'm just going to doodle on this a little bit longer. We can see how thick the bramble all is over yonder, and we'll do some line cleanup here and some thickness like that. But the cool thing about this is just to show how this goes over here. I can do that and that and that, and then I can take filter and a blur and a Gaussian blur, and I can drop in manipulation like that. And we can further go like this. Good. Like that. Once I'm happy with disbursement there, we can also filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and ramp that up a bit, like that. So it ends up having that washed out sort of feeling to it. And then we can start coloring, you know, like doing all the color down in here, like the cloud highlights and stuff. So that's currently where I'm thinking we're at. I want to have a low intensity color, like a greenish coloring in for branches and stuff, like these thicker branches and down in the tree, so that the purple is complementing the green. You'll see it, but that's where we're going. So I just want to keep focusing on here. So what we can do is we can work with the front branches like this. No, that's too thin. And that's just an eraser. There we go. There. I think let's just set a timer. I probably have 40 minutes in me today, so let's go ahead and set a timer for 40, and then I'll go ahead and just stop stream at that point so I can get some more rest, and I'll probably end up hitting the rest of these branches while I'm off screen, and we'll see. It's mostly throat stuff. I've got some drainage going on and coughing, but it's nothing that's gonna kill me. So I just got to get over it. I was in Nashville last weekend, so I just picked up plain funk. See, once you start getting up into this stuff, this little checker matrix up here, it starts to get hard to tell. Oops, that locked up. I have to hit save. I have to open it up again because it locked up. So there's that to that. There we go. See, you can see like the little sparks of the hatch pattern you have back there, but it just becomes more like leaf than stipple. Here. See, that looks horrible. Do that. Now I get to figure out where the little branches are that are running around back here. Since you have like all these little bramble sticks and little twiggy type extensions, at some point these larger branches just sort of melt away into that thicket. So I'm in the process of overlapping and interweaving all the little bits so they all melt away into each other like that. Hey, what's up? That's okay. I'm just doing branches. There's no big decisions being made here at all, specifically because I'm wrecked. So you and me, we're just gonna act hungover together, my dude. Did that get taken down? Did YouTube just extract that, or did you delete it? Weird, man. Yeah, I guess YouTube's okay. I don't know what's up. Yeah, that was weird, man. I don't know. I don't know about our new regime. At what point do they come for you and me, you know? I'm sure if I'm honest enough, I'll get canceled eventually or something. I'm probably not disabled enough, you know? Who knows? What a world. Okay. Well, snarkiness extracted or retracted. I keep running. Like I had just here, I ran these two twigs into each other so they become a loop, and I don't think I'm cool with that. It's when the lines of objects in a picture line up so that they look like they create a new shape unintentionally, it's called a tangent, where the lines connect, like here. Like if I were to connect those lines there so it looks like an arc going from this branch to this branch, that's a tangent. Generally, they're bad things in art because it means that you're just misplacing your line work, or you haven't done enough to distinguish one object from another inside of the illustration space. But when you're doing trippy shit, tangents are fantastic because your eye's just going to bleed into the other part of the images anyway, literally leading them into it through tangential connections like that is actually a really fun process to do. I used to do swirls and like little fractals and stuff on notebook paper when I was in school. It's because it was a mindless exercise. I enjoyed it. See that line hooked up with this little matrix stuff back here. So I have this cool little pocket here that's, of course, behind the main text, but I'm interested to see how this little space fills in. Just waiting for the NyQuil and the sleep medicine to kick in so I can go. I slept like a good solid 8 hours last night, like the first 8 hours of hard sleep I've gotten in a while. And boy, oh boy, I was a rock. But I am ready for round 2. There. Like that. Be here like this. Like that. Tangent. Like that. So I'm filling in these side, like this branch here is pushed back in, and you want to have that become a little bit more prevalent. So this branch here and this branch here and this branch here, they're competing for foreground dominance, like which one's going to be closest to the camera. But all of them are closer to the camera than this thicket here. So any branches I start drawing in here, I can erase the back bramble, just not this guy. I'm gonna clean up that line a little bit. Got some slop going on inside here. I want to make it a little cleaner. But I don't need to make it too clean yet because I still haven't, like, this is the most foregroundish branch that we have of all of it. So when I start dropping this one in, it's gonna slash through all of this work that we're doing. I'm just doing this work for context and to create a lot of background noise, so that as I carve through it with the eraser to create new branch paths, I want to anything that's left in the periphery, I want to remain there because that adds to the thickness of the foliage. So building back and then forward towards the camera is almost always a rewarding process. It normally simplifies your workflow. It can be a little extra work because you end up painting or drawing or whatever it is, things that you create things that were meant to be destroyed, but it's again the information is in there, so it adds it adds a sense of reality to the piece, that it's not just being constructed for the space that it's in, that it's actually its own thing that you can see pieces of if you look through it. So anyway, rambling again. Hard ramble mode engaged. And I gotta be careful about not making these branches too thick, because this branch has to be able to hold its weight, and it's already bearing so much. That's the interesting thing about trees, is that if it's a thick bramble, they can actually use their own. They can lean on other bramble that's further up. They weave together and sort of hold each other together, even though there's more weight than what each individual branch would be able to hold. When it builds this sort of net, it just becomes a springy loam that all of the branches hold up like a golf ball in a tee, you know? Those are going to be fast growth kind of trees, or they're going to be trees that exist in a very, very low, a low weather system sort of area, like that doesn't have a lot of storms. Like if you're heavy loaded like that and you get hit by heavy winds a lot, you're gonna break apart. So you either need to recover quickly with a very fast growth, or you need to evolve in an area that doesn't have, again, that turbulent wind or storms. It's like a Serengeti type of tree. I think that's a good example of it. There. Just cut through all those brambles like that. Happy little thicket, but there's a little squirrel hiding up in there, transformed into some sort of demonic creature that's going to punish man for its transgressions. Transgression squirrel. He needs a friend. Like that. Now we need to thicken that there. Thin that branch a bit there. We're closing in. I think I want to come over here and play a little bit. Well, good. YouTube's not being totally oppressive. I mean, not being able to say hungover would be pretty extreme. That. Yeah, see, that area is totally irrelevant anyway. Hey, Harnetico, how you doing, guy? I got this 6, so I'm not talking a lot. Or rather, maybe I'm just like muttering. Some incessant muttering. I'm also really leaning into my screen. It's because I'm using my elbows to prop my body up, and I've got a really small 6x9 Wacom tablet that I'm just like pixel pushing like a little rabbit. But I mean that's actually pretty normal. That's kind of how I do anyway. I can start to feel the NyQuil jumping on. I slept really well last night. Take that. Let's see. That feels right. Like here. There we go. Let's do this one now. A little bit of a larger eraser here because it's more prevalent here. This one, too thick. Here. There we go. Like that. Ah. Gold Peak sweet tea coats the throat, helps with the throat, the soreness. It's the sugar. It coats everything. I know it's poison, but I can take a little bit. Let's see. Nope, I want this branch in front of that branch. Yeah, but not that much. I'm gonna do it like that. There we go. Beep. Right up into the bramble. The challenge here, like with most detail work, is to not get too lazy. To get to a place where you can just kind of gesture with it, but the gesturing has to stay compliant with the language that you're creating with the branches. Like that's too much of a pocket there. So I have to, like, these long vertical strides are good for filling it, like the blocking off space, but they're not organic. At this level of the tree, they need to have gnarls and thickness, like scars. But it helps break up the space, that's for sure. So we're starting to weave these things in here like that. Excuse me. Ugh. Let's see. No. Good. Good. There's that tangent I was talking about. Don't necessarily want any in this space. Like that. That. There's no end to the amount of futzing that I can do in these branches. Like I could spend 40 hours in here, no problem, and just developing the branches. But at some point, there's a decreasing return of investment. You know, a depleting. What's the term? Depleting return, where at some point it just isn't worth any more detail. Like you're not going to express anything better with more detail at some point. Like you only need so many chain rivets, you know, like little chain pieces in chainmail before it just like fucking looks like chainmail. like you're done. Stop mincing on it. But I mean, obviously we're not there yet. But that's what's going on inside of me. There's two wolves at war inside of me. One that wants ultra excellent detail. The other just wants the fucking thing done. Whichever one wins is whichever one I invest the most time with. Diminishing returns. Thank you kindly. Oh. I've talked about this. A lot of times I end up spending more time in a particular area than I'm supposed to because I am procrastinating the next step. Because I haven't figured out how to move forward with the piece. So sometimes I catch myself hiding in the artwork. It looks like you're being productive, but you're actually not. Because you've already hit that line of diminishment, but yet you aren't ready to move on to the next level. Man, I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. Like we've almost reached, like, all these little mincy details, like they literally don't matter when you're looking at the book cover. Even more so, a lot of it's getting covered up anyway. But again, it's the attention to the detail, despite what can actually be seen, is what ends up ultimately selling the piece. I might end up having to shift something around, and all of a sudden that background that wasn't so prevalent becomes more visible. So as long as you're doing a good job with it, it just becomes part of the composition. I can come over here and play over here a little bit more. But that's one of the real subtle skill sets of art that isn't its own practice, but it's almost like meta painting, in that after you've done so many pieces, you can start to recognize where that diminishing return is going to occur inside of the work that you're doing. So you can speed up your process by recognizing where detail can't go any further. And like, you want to build pockets of rest for the eye, so as it's looking around the composition of your piece, it has an opportunity to soak in good, interesting detail that has that like wow factor pop. But you also need to have little pockets of uniform color, low texture, simple, just easy, like almost negative space resting spots, so that your eye can soak in cool detail and then rest for a moment and process by hitting a pocket of blandness, you know. So if you're building good compositions, you have little areas of these little rest stops that your eye can make as it travels around the composition, and adding that into the diminishing returns, that allows you to focus your attention on the areas that are going to be eye grabbers, and learning to just be loose or minimalistic in those rest spots, so that you can learn to make the best use of your energy, your creative energy, your emotional attention, and overall interest with the project. 'Cause the worst thing that can happen is you can get bored with a piece, because then you're having to force yourself to engage the project when you don't want to, and that just destroys creativity. So by recognizing where your point of diminish starts to hit in the resolution, that like if this was like twice the size of what it was, right, I would honestly just be operating probably in a larger resolution. Not stay at the same small fine tip point, but to use that larger amount of pixel knowledge to have more like line depth, for instance. I wouldn't need to specifically add additional lines to the process of filling the space, but instead it would be, I could use a thicker line that would be more easily increase or decrease the size of it to create different modulation in the shapes that we're working with, if that makes sense. Like this line, like this twig that I'm working on right now, if this had twice the resolution, I could use, like we're on a 3 pixel brush now, I could potentially do like an 8 pixel brush like this, but it would be zoomed out like that, so it still looks the same overall. But I would have 8 pixels for me to vary up and down just a little bit to create that added level of depth, right? Just because of a piece covered, like vector art is a really great example of this. Like logos and stuff, logos don't get more complicated the closer you get to them. The logo is the logo. It's the cleanness of the image that lets it stand at any level. And that's what's so cool about vector art, is that it scales up infinitely mathematically. So if your design is good, it can be on a business card or it can be on a billboard, and it looks great no matter what because of the simplicity of the design. That is kind of speaking to this idea of building a negative space where simple, clean, minimal detail still carries the piece forward, because as you draw into more high attention areas, the depth of information and detail increases. So, but it takes a while to be able to develop a style that can scale at those different levels of attention. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now. Readily recognizing my hard ramble, but that's kind of feeding. I think I'm talking about like when I'll choose to continue, like say working on this thicket of branches here and moving on. Normally when I move on to another area, it's just because something caught me out of the corner of an eye that just said you need to address me. So like over here, that's been grabbing at my eye. So I'm just going to drift over here and poke at this for a little bit until it's satisfied. And then it just starts to tangent out from there. Narratively tangent, not mechanically. They have the same word, different meanings. Take a little nook in there so that helps feed out the way this branch looks. There. That's pretty good. We're getting down to the grittiest of nitties, my friends. Like that. There we go. this tarn of thick trunk converting into these heavy, thick branches. I really enjoy manipulating that line art. And there's so much of it. It's like there's how to say, like here, this branch getting pushed into the foreground now because I tied it to a different limb than a moment ago. So I can really easily manipulate the depth of things here. Like this should be like that. There. This. Pretty sure that's just going to get covered over. Yeah, that's just going to get covered over anyway. But still, like I said, like if the text, like if the title position moves, then all of this information will still look good back there. Not necessarily certain 100% where in the composition the title block is going to be, or like how big is it going to be. Like this could increase 15% and like go from here to here to cover a wider area, or we could drop it down a ½ inch. You know, there's a lot of floating variables still going on with where the balance point for the text information is supposed to be. So it's important for me to make sure that I'm providing the same level of detail no matter where it is that title block is going to be positioned. Like it's way too uniform. I have to break it up a little bit. Oh yeah, my head's getting heavy. I can tell the NyQuil's kicking in. And I've only got about a minute and a half left anyway, so like I said, I'm sick. I'm making this a very, very short stream today. I just wanted to give a progress update, where we're at, what the flow process is like, where we're thinking about with the project. It's coming along nicely. I'm really, really happy with this. It'll be done this month, no problem. This is the heaviest lift, honestly, because mountains, if you haven't seen me do Bob Ross mountains before, I'm going to fuck around with the tree a little bit off stage, but when we come back, I think I'm going to frost the clouds with the highlighting, and but then we'll get into mountain ranges when we come back next week, because I love doing mountains, and it's been a long time since I've had to paint any, and so I just want to share like how does that look when you're in a digital space instead of like on an easel like Bob is. So you can do everything that he does digitally. You just got to know how. So that's what I'll be demonstrating next week. Mountains. This I am anticipating this little thicket to be done. I'll toss in some highlights here. I'll just do a little bit of highlight here off the cuff since we're here. So you can see these little tufts and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a low range. I'm going to just paint along the edges of that like that. Just going to demonstrate this here for a moment or two and then bounce. That way you guys know, because I'll probably do a lot of this off screen. I'm going to take this brush that I have here. I'll show you, if you aren't familiar with this brush already, I'll show you how it patterns. There. No, that was sloppy. There. Nope, still sloppy. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so there's like these little areas here that have more or less opacity than in here. There's maybe 40 or 50 different blobs. Like when I built this brush, it was essentially something like this. So each one of these different levels of transparency pull at pixels at different strengths. So the end result of it is, after I refined the shape for a while, I just decided to go with, with this. Let's see if I can make like a really big one. Oh, there it is. 0. There, so you can see you can see all these little lines that are carving through it. Those are different. Each one of those little breaks is a different opacity that, like this clump here, pulls pixels differently than this clump over here and here. So the end result, when we go in and use this for smudging, it has like this very loose, bouncy feel to it. That's real. That requires no RAM at all for me to duplicate. It's a super gentle, low RAM usage. Like that RAM usage is important because if you're going to try to smudge out pixels, that's a lot of information that you're pushing at the same time using. Oops. Wrong size brush, Kearney. Since it's multiple little shapes that are pulling all the little pixels at different intensities, it's actually easier for the CPU to process that information than if I had just like one solid brush that was pulling all the pixels together. Subtly, and I'm using about a 30%, 50% strength. Let's take this and bulb that out a little bit. Bulbous. And create this delicate little fluffy. And then the more aggressive I get with moving the brush, the more it just smudges it out into like a choppy gradient. Brush and just be a little more crisscrossy, like Bob likes to talk about, like little X slashes like that. Help stir up the pixels and push them all together, like kind of on the fly blending of the colors together on the palette or on the canvas. Like that. See? Looks fucking sick. It's super, super... What? I just froze up. Hold on. Yeah, let's reopen it real quick. But I'm essentially done for the day. But there you go. See, it just blends in so that you have that cloud front. I love doing these. It's so much fun. And as we move further and further away from the edge, it gets more and more integrated into just the general color of the storm. So we can create this circular sort of depth about how these clouds are. Here we go. Back off. See, it looks. See, it's just got this it's got this curving effect that's coming around like that. That's going to help us when we get up into here and these twigs. We can actually have these things start to blend together and have this sort of effect going on. So it all starts to mesh together up here along the fringes where all the glow is. That'll bleed into each other. But as we move further down towards Earth, it becomes more and more like natural terrain, right? So up here it's all unusual and uncertain what reality is, but as we push further down the piece, it becomes more and more normal terrain until we get here. It's just natural Earth, like what we expect it to be. It becomes more fantastical the further you move into Yggdrasil's branches. So hopefully I said that frequently in enough different ways to talk, to distinguish what it is I'm talking about here. Like that, and then like over here we can hit this line here like this. Something, I'm not satisfied with that, but that's just a quick little doodle, so I'll probably get rid of that. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. That's how we're gonna have shit shake out. So it's got that really dark pocket there in front of the highlights that adds just a ridiculous amount of depth into the piece. So I'm really pleased with where we're at. I'm gonna get rid of this up here. Get rid of that for now. We'll get to it. But in the effort of staying on goal for the deadline, I'm probably going to finish up these branches and work on these clouds some more on my own time during the week. And then when we come back on Saturday next week, we'll be ready to put mountains in here for you guys to see how that stuff works. And then we'll start pushing terrain forward on the page. It's printer style. Like most of the work is going to be here, but we have like some water work that we need to do, and the hill, the roughage, and then the forests and the fields and the glades and the bay. Then you hit the hill here, and you get the tree lines that are going to rise up, and then we got a lot more detail. Anyway. That's the piece. Once Yggdrasil is done, and we get the unnatural highlighting on the clouds resolved, then a lot of this piece is just going to become a normal landscape painting, which takes like maybe 6 hours if I want to give it a lot of attention, and I do, because commission, of course I do. I'm not just sketching something here. I'm trying to make something nice. So I'll probably spend 6, maybe even 7 hours on it. So that probably means 2 or 3 sessions will be done by the end of the month. So far everything's pacing out perfectly. Yeah, that's it. The drugs are kicking in, so I'm gonna go die. I'll be back on Monday for more Spelljammer art. Tuesday's a holiday, so I think maybe, I don't think I'm gonna. I probably won't be able to do I don't know when I'm going to be able to do martial powers. I maybe on Wednesday. I'm thinking, I don't know. I'll have to find some time for it. But we have Ebron Monday night, and then Tuesday morning through Friday more Spelljammer in the morning, and Eberron on Thursday night, and then we'll be back here Saturday next week doing Mountains on Reclaimant. So thanks a lot for being here, guys. If you're creeping on the channel, I love you being here. Like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter to find out when I'm live at Phil Kearney. You can check out some of the RPGs that I've made that are available for you to look at. That has both my design ideas and artwork off of a 5e mentality down on DMsGuild, and the link down below. And I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys on Monday. Thanks a lot for being here. I really enjoyed today. See ya.